Tom Hauser here with another midweek blessing. Today I want to talk about arguably the most famous piece of Scripture, the story, the account that is most well known, I would argue, at least one of the top 5 most well known in all of Scriptures. Whether you're a Christian or not, you've heard this story. It's a story of David and Goliath, a real story of a young boy, a young man maybe, but probably a young boy, facing a 9-foot tall warrior named Goliath from a place called Gath. And in 1 Samuel 17, the first 11 verses, it kind of sets up this whole scene. And part of the setup is you've got an army camped on either side of a huge of a valley, and they're getting ready to fight one another. And this guy Goliath comes down into the valley and basically challenges the servants of Saul, he calls them, challenges the ranks of Israel to a duel, and whoever would win this battle, win this one-on-one battle, would basically win the war, and they wouldn't have to actually fight army against army. So he says, look, if I win, then you serve us, and if you win, if your champion wins, then we'll serve you. And let's just cut out the middleman. And he's basically mocking the Israelites. And the very last verse of chapter 17, 1 through 11, chapter 17, verse 11, I think says a lot. And let me just read it to you. It says, "When Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Philistine," meaning Goliath, "they were dismayed and greatly afraid." They were dismayed and greatly afraid. It turns out that this human king that the people asked for, Saul, this human king that they wanted to follow rather than following God himself, it turns out that it's happening just the way God said it would happen. If you follow this guy, he's going to turn out to be just another guy, and he's going to let you down in dramatic ways. And this is the first real case of Saul letting them down in a public place. Not only are all the warriors, all the Israelites dismayed, Saul is dismayed. And what occurred to me in this passage, verses 1 through 11, that there's no mention of God anywhere in it. Nowhere in these passages are the ranks of Israel referring to God, counting on God, looking at God, referring to God. Certainly Goliath doesn't give God any account. He calls the Israelites servants of Saul, not servants of God, but servants of Saul. And what occurred to me is that this happens with us today. We set our sights on human beings to lead us, to guide us, to encourage us, to challenge us. And every single time, a human being will let us down because they're just that, a human being. And a watching world sees us doing that as Christians. They see us leaning into human leaders, human wisdom, human authors to lead us, to encourage us, to challenge us, to be our rock. And they don't as often see us intentionally looking up to the one who made us, for the one who is there to lead us, the one whose commands we are to follow, the one who is worthy of all of these things. And we end up putting our sights on people. And inevitably we get disappointed by that because people are not God. And so my encouragement to me today, but my encouragement to you today as well, is to ask the Lord to bring to mind where your hopes are, where your allegiances are, who you're obeying, who you are following, and to refocus our eyes upward, even as we engage in the battle before us, whatever that battle is, that we would engage in the battle before us, knowing that the one who made us, the one who leads us, the one who loves us, the one who came and died and rose again to save us, that God, Creator God, King God, is on our side. And we want to make sure we're fighting His battle, not our own battle. We want to make sure we're following His lead, not the lead of another human being necessarily, or certainly not our lead. So I hope this is helpful. I hope it might be a reminder to you today, as it was a reminder to me, that so often our eyes get fixed in the wrong place. Our hopes are in the wrong place, in the wrong people. And might we fix our eyes on things above, on the one who made us and leads us. Till next time, peace, friends.